Let's get started.
Okay, thanks Julie and Jill for your great introduction. This is Christine.
Hi everyone, this is Tian. Very glad to be invited on this talk. I'm really excited to learn something from you guys too.
Yeah, we're very excited to share remote design research with you today. Today's presentation, we're going to make it more dialogue than presentation. And then we're also looking forward to your Q&A at the end. So
So let's get started. Let's see what you will be learning today. First, we are happy to share why we think remote design research is worth learning, and then when to apply it. Last, we'll guide you through a remote design research process step by step.
right. So why remote design research? I think for us, that's because we have been doing a lot of this remote design research. And recently, Tian and I have been doing a project together. Um, and then we also have a lot of personal experience related to that, right, Tian?
Yeah, some people might think of remote design research as a result of COVID-19, but in my opinion, it's actually quite inevitable. Long before the pandemic, I worked on multiple projects at once among different cities. I could only accomplish this through remote design research. And surprisingly, I found users are more open and more at ease, probably because they had a sense of safety from the online interaction.
Hmm. And I believe we also have a personal story related to that.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. I once met a real weirdo on a dating website. He sent me dozens of detailed comments about my design portfolio. If I had met that person on the street, I would definitely have run away. But today, that weirdo is my husband. So I do believe online interaction can lower our guards and sometimes even life-changing.
Yeah, definitely. It is really a life-changing experience. For me, the remote design research tool is like a narrow robot. With this tool, that we can actually hack into people's everyday life and see the world from their perspective, which is super valuable to researchers and to all the product designers.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. So, where would you apply remote design research in a design process, Christine?
Yeah. So let's just take Zendesk triple diamond process, for example. In this process, it has discovery, development, validation, and rollout stage. This process differs slightly from the traditional double diamond design by including a rollout stage. So in my experience, remote research is fully capable in most of the research scenarios, except in the problem discovery stage. Because the problem discovery stage requires a lot of contextual observation to understand the participants' cultural background, unexpected behaviors, and environment details. So I would say
Mhm.
the remote research is a useful complementary tool in the discovery phase at the moment. So what is your
Hmm.
experience using remote research, Tian?
My experience, a decade ago, when I was still a master's student, there a lot of focus was placed on the importance of context, say how a person behaves in their own home. But when I tried working remotely, I found a lot of opportunities to build around digital context. While it was not identical, but I found the process still capable of generating novel insights. So the fuzzy part for me is concept validation. In some products like online apps or food, you can have the user interact with it remotely. But in others like car, that might be harder concept to validate in a remote setting. It's possible, but it's harder.
Yeah, I guess one day if we can have VR everywhere, probably that would be really handy.
Yeah,
Oh,
I believe so.
yes. So let's talk about remote design research pros and cons.
Yeah, one benefit of conducting remote design research is to widen up our user pool. Without the need to commute, we can invite those around the world, but also those who work during the day or those with disabilities. Secondly, I found that users are more willing to do pre or post research work online. Maybe it's because the beginning and the end of the online research is less defined, so users are more responsive. Thirdly, with remote research, we can explore a user digital history to get a broader context, kind of like visiting their home, but digitally. Lastly, it's actually saving researchers time, since the interview exercise could be conducted online, and it's easier to play them back to other stakeholders. However, I know conducting design research online or remotely does require more preparation. So Christine, would you like to share some downsides of conducting remote design research?
Yes, of course. Yeah, first of all, it's a security concern. So if your subject of research has a serious security concern, you probably need to have a double thought because you don't want your future prototype get leaked because of the observation. And and also, if your research topic is fuzzy and needs a lot of contextual information, we don't suggest you just use remote research tools. And if your research participants do not have good internet connections, and lastly, if their digital capabilities are low. So after we finish the pros and cons of this remote design research, so let's talk about how to guide remote design research step by step.
Yeah, there are many methodologies to conduct design research, but they tend to have a lot in common. For remote design research in particular, we created this framework. These are 6 steps to the process, but we will cover them step by step in the following slides and along with a participatory workshop in the middle.
Okay.
Shall we do the foundation?
So the first part is the preparation. So the objective for the preparation is to prepare the project for success. So here you see, this is a picture of ideal New York's project space. So in this picture, we can actually see most of the elements to prepare a successful project. For example, first of all, you need to set up a sound project management system and make the information visible to the team, including the research goals, calendars, processes, and rituals. Secondly, you should keep progress transparent to the team. Thirdly, have a coherent team dynamics. Because people are in the same space, we can easily discuss with each other and feel like a team. Last but not the least, don't forget to add fun factors.
Oh, you mean like fun factor? Where is the fun factor in the picture?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you asked. That is the plant over here because I couldn't find one object in this picture to represent that. But by saying fun factors, I mean the things that make you happy in a creative process that actually is very important because when you smile, you can relax and more creative. So in this picture, the fun factors I would say like the plant, the lamp, or the colors in the room.
So I guess, yeah, relaxing mind really helped the creativity.
Exactly. Oh, so let's see. How do we do that in a digital space? So here is like a few tips. For example, you can set up a virtual project space. We often use Notion to do that. It's quite a good tool. Then you definitely can add some fun factors. For example, in Notion, there are very cute emojis or pictures. That's the things that we use very often. And the next, you definitely should keep your progress transparent. So in Notion, we'll put documentation link as well as the discussion board or the ideal parking lots. So the ideas can still floating. The next one, don't forget to invite your stakeholders. That's actually is an advantage of digital research because it's much easier to invite stakeholders to participate and then invite their opinions along the way.
Next stage is about scoping. Scoping serves as a compass to navigate a project direction. At this stage, there are two key actions that are most likely to be neglected. Number one is what we call Q-storming, which is a facilitate a brainstorming session about remaining questions your teammates might have. This action is simple but powerful. It can bring out not only perspective, but also your teammates' ownership. As research lead, when collaborating remotely, we don't know if your teammates are fully on board with your vision. So try out Q-storming in an Envision app could be effective alignment session. Number two is key action is to build initial user hypotheses. This will help the team to set up measures of research success, and don't forget to constantly refine and validate them as you learn. This will allow you to paint a clear picture of your users' true experiences. Next, I will give a couple tips on how to conduct scoping remotely. Number one is to allow individual time to think about who is your user and what are their problems, or simply do some desktop research before Zoom call. A lot of users document their experience and share them online, which can be a great way to observe remotely. Set a time to categorizing and prioritizing your hypothesis could be the tip number two. It can be hard for the facilitator to detect energy level in the Zoom brainstorming. Set time can boost excitement. The last tip is about how to create a hypothesis which is testable and can demonstrate a business direction. The tip can actually be applied in both physical or remote researching scenarios.
I think hypothesis is really the foundation of a good research. So I also know that in our later on breakout session, we're going to practice how to set up hypotheses together, right?
Right. So I will give an example for
yes,
everyone to see how to define and check your hypothesis, whether it's a good one to continue. So here is a project that I led about craft beer. So one of our hypotheses was beer haters can be converted into beer lovers through food pairings around beer.
So yeah, is this testable?
We actually did some tests during our research. We came up with an idea to bring both food and drinks to our users who doesn't drink beer at all. And the food options varied from night market snack food to French fine dining, and different drinks range from wine, whiskey, bubble tea, and of course, including craft beer. During our contextual interview, we tried to observe if the beer haters would pair anything up with beer and how that combo made them feel. In the end, they reviewed their desire to try craft beer with a premium version of street food. That's surprising, isn't it?
Yeah, that's definitely very surprising. But does it also demonstrate a business direction as well?
I think it does, because after a couple of rounds of contextual interviews, there's a vital business decision to be made, whether the venture owner need to partner up with a restaurant business or start their own. So this hypothesis is able to illustrate an alternative business direction. After scoping, next we're gonna talk about the next step. I hope this example is helpful.
Yeah.
The third step is about recruiting. So in a traditional design research context, the main goal of recruiting is to identify the right users of your in-depth research. However, since we are doing everything remotely, recruiting becomes a crucial step to begin connecting with your users from the start. So you can establish trust early on and reduce no-show rates. And here are two main tasks. First is to find and recruit users for your research topic. These users can be the extreme or target users for your design. Second one is to design and assign longitudinal fieldwork, aka pre-work, to document users' daily behaviors and really understand the why behind the activities, like the homework you guys finished before our meetup.
So Tian, I see here you put extreme users and target users. Why not just target users? Why you also put extreme users?
That's a really interesting question, and we got that questions quite often. Some clients demand more target users and wanted to skip extreme users, either to save some money or budget. And I usually explain talking to target users is more a way to validate your concept, while interviewing users outside of the curve can seize a chance to disrupt the industry and be truly innovative. Meanwhile, extreme users are not just one dimension. Sometimes a good combination gives real good insight. For example, one of my clients wants to design a more integrated retail environment for their outdoorsy fashion brand. And here are three example dimensions we considered when recruiting extreme users. Number one is about their shopping behavior, to find extreme users who either shop exclusively or online exclusively. The second dimension is their outdoorsy experience, to find users who are outdoorsy campers or those who are more comfortable in the city. The third is about brand conception. I hope this example is demonstrating what is extreme users, and you can recruit more extreme users than target users for your product innovation. Next, I will share some tips about how we're gonna do recruit remotely. Number one tip is about your facilitator role, to be a tour guide during your pre-interview communication. Ideally, there should be only one point of contact, means only one person to interact with that users the entire process. So the users feel more at ease, can be potentially more expressive during the in-depth research. Number two tip is to recruit extra participants. As I noticed, sign-up rate is actually higher when you post about a remote design research, but users can be less committed if there's a lack of research guidance. So I would suggest recruiting 50% more participants than usual. Number three tip is to give incentives for recruiting survey and pre-work. Say if I want users to complete a 3-day diary for beverage consumption, I will be clear upfront that they will be compensated based on their daily progress, so the quality and quantity can be ensured. And lastly but not least, remember to check technology ahead of time, including the internet speed and types, especially when interviewing users across the countries.
Okay, so the next is observation. So the objective for the observation is to build empathy and to get inspired by the variety of different people's perspective. What we usually do first is to build trust with the research participant. Then secondly, try to research in the context, such as at home, in front of their desk. Thirdly, see how they do things, but not just ask them questions. Here I bring an example for you. For example, in a gaming laptop study, we actually brought gaming laptop prototypes to these participants to ask them to try, and then to ask them to show us how they will use these models at their home. So you can see they actually use it in a lot of different ways as we expected.
Yeah. You mean like a laptop, gaming laptop, you can do that validation remotely? Can you actually do that?
In this case, we did it in our Munich office, but I guess if you want to do it remotely, you actually can still do it, but not entirely. For example, if I'm doing this research in a Taipei office, I can still send this set of prototypes to the Munich office and ask one of the colleagues to set up the room and then to welcome the people without me going to the Munich. And this person doesn't have to be a researcher.
I see. So maybe there are some confidentiality issues can occur, but we can solve around that problem.
Yes, exactly. So when we do it in a remote way, we definitely should still invite users to do exercise, such as concept testing, mind mapping, and crosswords. In this case, Loom is a very useful tool because it can actually arrange or explain the test to the participants, so the users wouldn't get lost in a digital space. Then the other tip is to utilize unmoderated research to hack into people's firsthand experiences. So for example, there is a client want to know the runners' firsthand experiences, and these runners are in 14 different markets of 3 different levels. So they ask runners to use Indimo to self-document their running experience for a week. The outcome is 104 respondents uploaded over 1,100 videos, photos, and screenshots of their workouts, routines, rituals. And the best of all, Indimo also provide analytics support. So we can easily see the pattern, and then I share a lot of lows. And lastly, we can use social media to invite users to join a co-creation process. For example, like La Pure. Tian, have you ever tried La Pure before?
Yes, it's a Chinese brand, and I try them quite often when I was in Shanghai. It's actually famous for, I almost participated for their co-creation process.
Oh, you did? So
Yeah, they have the package, so
yeah.
I did.
So La Pure is a very successful Chinese yogurt startup. So they are quite famous for inviting customers to join their product development process. For example, when they're developing their new bread products, they recruited users to enter their product development group to design the launch sequence, bread tests, and also ingredients and pricing. At the end, they even invite users to join the product shooting.
That's really interesting. And I didn't know that they were like doing the pricing as well.
Yeah.
So far, yeah, we already share stories on scoping, recruiting, and observation. I hope the short sharing is helpful for you guys. Now it's your turn to practice remote design research. We have a mini design research challenge for you guys.
Right. Today we are going to do a mini remote research together, inspired by a real project we work together. So the topic is how was COVID-19 change people's food experience? So the next, I'm going to hand the control to Jill and Xiang, and she will moderate us to the breakout session.
See you there. The group dynamic can be really strange, and then the productivity is not really on. The next tip I will give is also another low-tech tool to use Google Spreadsheet to collaborate on key quotes and timestamp. Once you have the structure set up, your team can categorize key quotes into different themes and start forming insights. In addition, this tool can help your team quickly navigate specific data and speed up the preparation for final storytelling. You know how sometimes we will edit some video to share with our stakeholders. So if you have a timestamp and quotes, it's really easy and smooth to go there. The third tip is to place all user profiles into one visual board. This is similar to printing out all profiles in one physical room. We wanted to visualize our data and free up our brain space. Your memory is free up to be creative and see new patterns. So next, we're gonna go to the synthesis stage. Christine?
Yeah. So the objective for the synthesis is to craft innovation opportunities, which means as a team, we want to find the eureka statements to trigger innovation opportunities. So just like in the picture of the right, so the goal is to elevate the level of insights to the abstract level. So we're able to discover the hidden opportunities. Then the team can brainstorm how might we or brainstorm ideas based on these opportunity areas. So next, the next part is about, we'll also develop design principles together. And then we'll also create opportunity maps and the design strategies. So when it goes to the remote tips, actually, to be honest, I feel synthesis is synthesis. There's no like a lot of digital assistant in there, except you definitely should prepare a remote synthesis space for online synthesis or remote workshop. So in this case, Mural board is a very good tool to use. However, if you are in a design sprint situation, and then you don't have a lot of time to do synthesis, I will strongly suggest you can do something like test the hypothesis like we just did. So in this case, risk-based assumption canvas is very useful. The way we use this board is usually we'll put all the hypotheses unvalidated on the right-hand side, and then put the riskiest at the bottom, and then deck it up. Then after your observation, even before your downloading, the group can group together and just review the hypothesis like we just did, and then put the ones that already being validated to the left. So just take one of my recent project, for example. I help a group. Oh yeah, we can turn to the next page. Yeah, I help a group, a startup, to validate their design, which is an AIoT product, a digital product to help the contractor to record their crop situation, to ask farmers to record the crop situations. So the riskiest assumptions are they assume the farmers will actually record the data and then be very happy to receive experts' suggestions to instruct their growth situations. However, after the observation, all these riskiest hypotheses actually totally failed.
Oh, really? Did you just say totally all of them failed?
Oh, not all
the hypothesis they had?
Yeah,
okay.
But
so can you give us example?
Yeah, the bottom ones, especially related to the farmers, because after the observation, first of all, contractors love these tools because they actually help them to release their task and then make them relax, and they give all the tasks to the farmers. However, the farmers, they hated the app because they feel the app is watch over their shoulder. And then they don't want any experts to give their instructions. They feel they know what is the best to their crops. So they just want to do whatever they want.
Sounds like an interesting story here.
Yeah. And the next, I like to give a definition to insight. So an insight for me is a statement of an eureka moment of the problem at hand, based on the real world observation that can lead to powerful solutions. So I like to give an example to show you what do I mean by an insight. So Eatwell is a food app to improve the top executives' health by giving them restaurants and food suggestions. The client came to us because they found in the test of their existing service that very few executives wanted to use it. And if they did, the dropout rate was high. The original service sells the executives the service in the health center when they receive their health check result. A dedicated nutritionist will give them food and restaurant suggestions based on their weekly health conditions. The insight we discovered actually changed the design direction. We realized it is the top manager's calendar, but not themselves control what and when they eat. Therefore, the real users of the app should be their secretaries, but not those top executives. We should help secretaries to order healthy and delicious food and arrange healthy and entertaining dinner parties instead of expect the top executives to do so. As a result, the new design increased business performance and created healthy and happy customers.
That's a very insightful story. I guess in the end, design research identified the real users is not the original, like in their hypothesis, they thought the users will be the high executive, top executive, but it's the secretary they're designing for.
Yeah, I think that's the result that we're expecting from the design research, which is to provide insight and help us to design and innovate better. Yeah, so here are the 6 steps we just talked through. And then we also did a summary of all the tools and the tips here. I guess we'll share this material back to the group later on.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions about any digital tools that we haven't like talk about them in depth, please ask those questions, because Christine and I felt digital tools can be used or talk about when you search about them. So we are talking about really our core insights about how to do remote design research in this way. So please feel free to ask any questions if you have about any software or digital, I don't know, obstacles you found.
Yeah, and also share your experience as well.
Yeah,
so finally,
sure.
let's connect. So here are our LinkedIn pages. And right now, I'm looking for opportunities to collaborate in terms of innovation lead or design research opportunities. So welcome to connect.
Yeah, thank you again for everyone, your time and your interest. I'm so glad that I was in breakout room, see some of you in person. I was really nervous. But please feel free to reach out to me if you have any opportunities around food innovation, social media, or education. Don't hesitate to drop a line if you're expanding to Japan. So I'm currently in Tokyo, so yeah.
Right.
So, thank you so much, Christine and Tian. Oh, did you have, Christine, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention that we created a Facebook group to continue our discussion. So I also will share the link later, and then you can also make a copy here. We like to continue to share the insights and also observation that you guys just shared, and then we can also continue this remote design research discussion in the group.
And ideally, we were thinking about maybe posting some expert opinion, expert perspective on how to conduct productive remote design research in that group. So maybe posting some articles in like a weekly. So everyone, if you are interested still on this topic, please join, and we are welcome anyone who's interested in human-centered design research. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, you're not off the hook yet. We have a bunch of questions for you as well. So I get a very upvoted question here, which has 5 votes. So to Christine and Tian, when you're asking users questions, do you feel like you should be more direct, like tackling your hypothesis straight on, or do you think you can be more subtle by asking roundabout questions?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I can answer first, and then Tian, you can.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I think in our observation page, we actually suggest that when you do the research, it's better that you ask people to do things first, or you can conduct observation in a context that actually related to this question. Because a lot of time, if you just ask your hypothesis straight on at the very beginning, it will be really hard to get the real answer. Because for one, people wouldn't really remember or to be able to give you the true answer. So it's better that you ask it not in an indirect way, but you design an activity to be able to actually see how they actually do it. And then therefore they're able to give you a better answer. If you really want to get an answer for your hypothesis, it's better that you save this hypothesis to the very end of the study, and then just a confirmation or a chat. Because sometimes if you ask such a direct question, people may just go into that left brain mode and then start talking you in a very relaxed way. So that would be my suggestion. Tian, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I agree with most of the things. Agree on most of the things you said. I would say usually we will ask oblique questions rather than straight or yes or no question. And for instance, the example that I will give is the craft beer that I talk about in the presentation. You will not ask a person who doesn't drink beer, say, please drink some beer, or do you drink beer if it pair up with a sandwich? And they were like, I don't drink beer. Why you ask me that? So by like incorporating a exercise, let them talk about maybe that person is very enthusiastic about tea. So why they pair up tea with dessert, and is there any reason? So what's the value behind that? So figure that out and maybe apply those values to the beer sample. That will actually light them up. So I would say instead of ask the hypothesis related question, try the oblique question and do an observation exercise.
So should we?
Great. Yeah. So the next question is tips for setting up a UX research practice from scratch. So if, for example, you're the sole UX researcher, where would you start? Are there any resources you'd recommend looking to?
Regarding that, I actually need to say that you are not alone. So which means you're not alone, and then you can actually make it. I think if you starting it from scratch, if I were you, I would just do something that immediately that in my control area that I can solve with the research input. So start to show people the value of research and then to help them to, and then also provide inspiring results. I remember when I started fund the Haoshi Accelerator, which is the first food and agriculture accelerator in Taiwan. It actually was a startup situation as well. And then I was the founder as well as the only researcher in the team. So I would just like do it by myself. But I realized right now there are lots of digital tools that can be the second person in your team. For example, we share an AI tool which is called Alter AI. It's like a smart robot. So they actually will do the transcript for you. Then you will have a second researcher help you to do the recording, and then also to use that data to form a conversation with yourself. So I'll say just start from whatever you can do and don't give up. Yeah. Tian, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm sorry always letting you taking the question first. I have some time to reflect on this. So I think I have like two suggestions. One is looking at to set up a library of toolkit, because I think people from different field, like a designer or engineers, now design thinking is so popular, especially in digital products, like organization. And then maybe they will kind of need to set up this archive or library about what kind of tools they can use in what kind of stage. This will be design kit. I will send the link so you can look at different tools and then starting from incorporating what kind of tools is working for your business. Because I was in venture capital for a while, it's very different, like big corporation enterprise toolkits and small startup toolkits will be very different. So think about from your business point of view, what kind of research you are actually doing. Is it about validation? Is it about exploratory? So that will be one place to start. The second, I would say start with the design research culture. I was probably the first or second person that was hired at ArchiX. It's a food incubator. So we started by creating a culture. What's the value that we care? Is it about openness, or what does that mean? Design research in our organization. What's our point of view? So we started by like writing out what's our vision for design research or user research in our community. It's different from Google. It's different from IDEO. It's ArchiX. So I've just given an example. So start with maybe have a panel with your researchers. What kind of their background? Right. So I have maybe design background, someone have anthropology background. So a different combination of individual will help you determine the culture of design research in your organization. So these are the 2 tips or my answer to your question. I hope it's helpful.
I just thought of one more thing, that if you are in a digital product development company, so most of the time, the development process is really fast. So they will just like continuously move on. So I would say if you are the only researcher and you really want to do some like regular and formal study, what you can actually do is to set up a regular observation session. For example, every last day of the month, we'll have a research session the whole day, and then we'll recruit participants such and such. So if you have any research questions, you can just send the question to me, and then I will help you to arrange everything. So you can actually like bundle all the questions of your organizations together. And then if you start by doing so, answering their most urgent question, and then they will start to realize, hey, this is really useful. And then this is happen monthly. So they will also start to expect that. And then that could give you a very good starting point.
Yeah, great answers and discussion there. So moving on to the next question, when you ask for users for suggestions on how to improve a product, and they share that they're not sure, how do you continue to guide them, or how do you continue to guide them? Would you give them suggestions, see what they prefer?
Can you go first?
Okay, just to be fair. Okay, so this question, my answer, ask them how to improve them and share not sure. I would say maybe asking all what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And how do you, any high point or low point, like the question that we had in our interview, I think those will come to more concrete, and then start asking why. For instance, if we have a software on the app, and then they were like, I don't know how to make it more secure, and then you can ask about, is there any step in the process make you feel different, any remind you of security, or is there any excitement in your process of applying this or utilize this app? So I would say suggesting from that direction. And I would not say guide them to give more, because maybe just ask questions about high point, low point. That would be my answer. Christine?
I think some tricks all the time is ask them to like do it instead of ask, and then ask follow-up questions based on how they do it. For example, if you have you have a website, and then you should definitely give that website to your users and ask them to try your product. Even though it's just a really rough prototype, they can still try it. And then while they try it, you will see, maybe they get stopped, or they look really confused. Then you can ask follow-up questions and why you feel confused, what made you stopped. Then they will explain their behaviors to you. Based on that, I think it actually is the designer's role to think of solutions to improve the products, but not the users, because usually they're not the design experts, and they will only give a very basic answer. Yeah, that would be my view.
Yeah, I think that those are great points. Previously working at, Shane, you can, I don't know whether you can go back, but yeah, like previously working at Zendesk, I worked with Anna, who's one of the researchers who's joining us this session as well. And she actually was really good at teaching me how to not, like when I would interview users, I'd be like, but don't you think that this would be great? Ultimate and then like a leading question. But yeah, I think when I would watch Anna as like a more experienced and like actual researcher go through the questions, she would be able to ask like the same question in many different ways. to try and get them to even just walk through, okay, walk me through exactly like your day to day. And then, oh, how would you feel at that point? You know, because I think people may not take the time to like reflect on like, oh, I feel actually that kind of annoys me, or like, oh yeah, I actually really like that in my day or in my workflow and my experience. But until you kind of tease it out of them, yeah, people aren't really going to think about it. So yeah, sorry, and I'm putting you a little bit on the spot, but if you have anything to add, please feel free.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think much to Jill's point, it's about really understanding all aspects of the product. And for me, when I look at ways for improvement, improvement usually means a user is doing a workaround. And if they're doing a workaround, it means something is not working for them. So I always try and look for places where a user has to make a hack or a workaround or get stuck. And that's an opportunity for further questions and improvement.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so just being mindful of the time, I think we have time for one more question. So I'm just going to ask the next one. So is a hypothesis a must? This is a good question. And can we just have open-ended kind of questions and research? What do y'all think?
I can go first. I think it doesn't have to, but it will definitely help you to scope the success, measure of success for the research. For instance, like, again, I hate to bring this up, but the beer project, the venture owner, they are from New Zealand, but the market is in Asia, somewhere in Asia. And the people who are not really familiar with the cultural context locally, they might have more research questions open up, like what's the beer geek look like and what's their drinking behaviors. So they will have more questions rather than hypotheses. But if you already have some experience in the market and then you did some desktop research, you're easier to have hypotheses coming up. So it's not necessarily to be a must, but I would say if you have it, it will definitely help you to scope your project and reach your goals and kind of knowing the boundary, what it is, and kind of test it out in the research.
So when we think about hypothesis, it's not necessarily always come from researchers, I will say, because I believe a very good source for your hypothesis actually is your stakeholders. For example, like the boss or the boss's boss. In my experience, these businessmen, they always have very strong, not just hypotheses, but beliefs. So understand these beliefs beforehand, before you start the research, actually is quite helpful. Because for one, maybe these beliefs are true. So it gives you a context to narrow down your research to make it more focused. Therefore, you're able to find better insights. For the other, you already start a conversation with these people. So you know what they believe, and then you're able to actually bring them along in this journey. So at the end, if you really find this hypothesis or belief need to be correct, you don't have to convince them at the end. They actually can see the evidence along the way. Then it becomes a conversation, then a one-on-one battle of truth at the end.
Yeah, I think that that's so true. Even when people claim that they don't have a strong opinion, they probably definitely do.
Yeah.
They already have something in their mind that they think is true, and I think that that's
exactly.
Great.
And
Okay.
sometimes if you just ask the group that before the designers, that before the research start, just have a mini design studio. So you guys can still like quickly sketch. That would be your hypothesis. So you can bring this mini sketch to the field together with your research. Then you're able to actually iterate design along the way. That would be a really good way to iterate your hypothesis as well.
Yeah, great point. Okay, so I think we're running to the end of our session. So Thank you so much, Christine and Tian, for taking the time to prepare the session and to answer all the questions that we had. We still have a record of all the questions that were asked, so we will go through it and see what we can answer and send out to the community after the session is over. And we will also be reaching out to you with like other resources that we think might be helpful, as well as a summary of the session. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone, at the end of your workday for most of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you
Really a
guys.
pleasure. Really liked it. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you so much.